Coach Emily. But
oh,
okay. Hi guys.
Hey.
So, hi Deb and Emily. I am here with two of Wild's newest coaches, and I want to introduce you to them this morning. We were actually just chatting in the green room about how the weather has changed. Emily's all like turning on her fan in her office.
See it in your hair a little bit.
Oh, am I? Oh, yeah, and her
no,
hair.
Emily's hair is blowing.
Emily's
in
hair,
blowing
yes.
in the wind.
Yes, you can see it. I am cozied up in my brand new sweatshirt, which is absolutely freaking huge, you guys. It's like bat wings, but it's so cozy because the temperature dropped from 90 to 55 like it saw a state trooper this last 3 days, and I am not acclimated.
Same here.
So I actually was going to show you guys. This is my new t-shirt, which I absolutely love.
Mm-hmm.
And it combines with the name of my new sweatshirt. So comfort and warrior, it's like the two words that most define my entire aim of existence. Like, I want to be cozy with soft fuzzy blankets. And also slay all the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Saddle the dragons we ride it on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I am very excited to be here today with Coach Deb and Coach Emily, because they are Wild's newest additions to our Clarity coaching team. And over the next few weeks, for a while, we are going to do a little Saturday morning tradition. And they may go ahead and get gussied up, but I am going to keep showing up in sweats. And just grab a cup of coffee or tea or hot water or whatever it is that you've got. And we want to take questions and talk about life as coaches and the things that we're learning, and just be available and accessible. So it's something we're doing for a little while. We're going to try it out. And I want you to know them. That's really what it boils down to. I want you to know Deb and Emily. They both have terrific Facebook pages, websites. So if you guys want to drop in those into comments, you can do that. Yeah. But Deb, let's start with you. And what if you just share a little bit with us about you, instead of me talking about you? Share with us a little bit about you, what you're passionate about, what your area of coaching niche is, and so on.
Yeah. Man, I have lots of areas of passion and interest, but I think one of the things that I am particularly excited about in this coaching opportunity is to be able to help deaf people more specifically. And that's not my sole niche. I'm happy to talk to people in English too, because I've had that question. But I have spent a good portion of my professional life working with deaf people as an interpreter. So I'm in this mediation sort of role between two people, but not really having a direct impact, not being able to share my heart, support, and encouragement directly with people. So I'm excited to be able to do that with sign language and coaching.
But you have all of these sign language speaking skills in ASL.
Yes.
And now, as a certified coach, you have the coaching too. So it's a perfect way to marry those two, blend them together, where you're not interpreting for others, you're actually sharing what you are an expert in as well.
Yeah, that's really exciting, because I've been able to witness all sorts of abuses and toxic situations, not been able to necessarily reach out and help people like my heart says it wants to. So I'm really excited to be able to bring that into the coaching realm.
I'm so glad that you're part of the team. Now, working with deaf clients is not the only area of expertise, though.
No.
You have some things you're passionate about
Yeah.
as well, as far as like topical things, not just your type of audience.
Right.
Can you share some of that?
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple different passion points with coaching. I have a big heart to see people come out of an abusive, toxic situation and feel like they're okay with God. I think that a lot of church culture doesn't support people getting out into safety and freedom, and piles on additional shame and abuses. So I would love to help people reclaim not only who they are, but who they are with God. Yes. And I have particular training, knowledge about not only the evangelical side of things, but the Latter-day Saint side. Where I live, there's a high density of Latter-day Saints.
Gotcha.
And my background is in doing a deep dive study into the differences between their beliefs and evangelical beliefs. So I feel like I can really speak to both sides, and where there's some overlap, where there's difference, and how some of the ways that both sides view things can lead to further abuses.
Absolutely. And how to heal from that trauma, right?
Yes. Yes, yeah, for sure. So that's one major niche interest, but I'm also very interested in supporting mamas who have gotten themselves to safety and are starting to figure out who they are again, but their kiddos still have to go back into the toxic environment. And the guilt that comes with that. How do you work through that? The sense of, I've gotten to safety, but they still have to go back. And reframing to understanding that you have now created a place of safety that they wouldn't otherwise have. And then how do you triage your kids when they go back and forth?
Right. That parallel parenting is when you're co-parenting with someone who doesn't actually parent with you.
Right.
And you are forced to. And your kids are navigating constantly, just constant new iterations of trauma. So that traumatic transition between two parents where the households are not compatible, not similar, and one parent is highly problematic, those traumatic transitions become the baseline for kids.
Yeah.
So I love that you're bringing your experience and training to being able to guide mamas through not only the guilt of that, but also tips on how to empower their children so that their children aren't just waiting until they're 35 and they can get into therapy.
Right. Yeah, and empowering.
Not that they won't need it. They probably will, but that's okay.
Yeah, and empowering the mom that she can figure out her own way of parenting, and that's good, and that's okay.
Right. Parallel as opposed to counter parenting, where you're not trying to like counteract everything that the other parent is doing. Yeah. Because that doesn't work well.
Exactly. That's exhausting. Yeah.
So I see we have some questions coming in, and I want to get to that. I want to talk about Emily and her interests and niches and areas of expertise first. And then if you are watching and you have other questions, we'll just go through and we will just work our way through the questions. And so if you are, I know there's a number of people watching right now, feel free to go ahead and drop questions in and we will scroll back up and we will work our way through. But Emily, I'm so glad that you are here with us too. And you have a different niche, a different area of focus, and a different background of experience that you are bringing to the Wild coaching team. And I want to hear more about that. So
Yeah.
share with us.
I really love how each coach in the Wild Network has a different specialty. Like we all have very similar areas like that crossover that we work in. But like Sarah, you are like the court queen. Like you're not an attorney, but you have tons of experience navigating the court system for survivors who are having to do that. And it's super,
strategy
super messy, the strategy side. I love that. And then like Deb's a mom and has that wonderful experience with that. And of course, her incredible niche with the deaf community. What a gift to actually have a trained coach in that area.
I don't know of any other survivor abuse recovery clarity coaches that have the accessibility to work with the deaf community.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. And then I love to specialize in boundaries and relationships and coming out of toxic fundamentalist Christian cultures. Those who know my story know I came out of a hyper fundamentalist Christian organization, Christian, using that loosely.
Definitely in quotation marks.
More like wolves in sheep's clothing. And so I've really noticed, first of all, me coming out of that experience and being so deeply sheltered as a young woman, and then coming out of that around like 24, 25 years old and having like the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old and being so behind in the world. And I don't know how to drive. I don't have a driver's license. I don't know how to like file taxes, and having to learn all of that a little bit later than life than the average population does. And then navigating relationships. I know I have noticed, and I've personally experienced, how a lot of individuals who have come out of the fundamentalist world, they really struggle with boundaries in their relationships. And it can be more than just their intimate partner relationships, but like, what do you do when you are having problems at work? Or if you're having a friendship that has gone sour and you don't know what to do, or you have a family member, like an in-law, who
or a sibling,
yes, absolutely. A lot of survivors who have come out of particularly like cult-like scenarios, like myself, have experienced alienation from their family. They've been completely cut off, and that is a massive thing to grieve, but it's also something to work through. And you have to relearn how to interact with individuals in a way that is safe, that is kind, respectful, offers the other person dignity, but also honors your own values. So those are areas that I love to focus on. And I do work with a lot of moms as well who have come out of a toxic relationship and are looking for those boundaries on how to handle the various relationships in their life, whether that be an ex-partner or family or whatnot. Those are just the areas that I just love to work in.
Now, I just want to add one other thing that I know is on your profile on our website, and that is also working with the grief that comes from chronic illness, right?
Yes.
Oh, I see Monique saying, thank you for the open captioning. You are welcome. That is exactly what we are trying to do more of.
Yay, accessibility.
Yay for accessibility. Glad you're here, Monique. But yeah, so Emily, with one of the unfortunate and often devastating realities in trauma recovery is that our audience, our collective audience, all of us, has a highly disproportionate number of individuals who have chronic illness issues.
Yes.
Autoimmune issues. Go ahead.
It would be rare for me to find a survivor who doesn't.
Yes. Or if their health is primarily intact, they are parenting children who do.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So they're still carrying the burden, the heaviness of that. And then, of course, we also have a lot of neurodivergence, which often has comorbidities. In the neurodivergent population, there are a lot of individuals who have autoimmune issues, have hypersensitivities, they're highly sensitive persons, they have, because their bodies are so much more sensitive, with a more sensitive nervous system that comes from the neurodivergence, then they're dealing with all of these other chronic health challenges. You've been through a lot of that. I've been through a different set of a lot of that. Deb, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I've got my version too.
Yeah. And so I know, Emily, you work, well, with that, there comes a lot of angst and often a lot of grief.
Yes, and it complicates the situation where what do you do when you have limited, not only work experience, but limited physical ability to work? When you've lived in so much stress that your body is just fritzing out and is exhausted, and you've got autoimmune issues, and how to find a sense of safety while honoring your own body's needs and boundaries. And
keeping food on the table.
Yes,
Minor
and
details.
I'm not a health and wellness coach, so I'm not going to be like from the nutrition side or anything like that. But I definitely have worked with individuals who are struggling with massive health complications due to unhealthy situations that they've come out of. And we can talk through that, and we can come up with game plans for how to make sure you have a really solid medical team around you, and just ways that you can help bring your body out of fight and flight mode and turn on the parasympathetic nervous system so that you your body can relax a little bit throughout bits and pieces instead of constantly staying in that high stress zone. Okay, you're high stress now. How do we bring it back down? How can we protect your body as much as possible as it's either enduring an unhealthy situation or in the immediate aftermath and it's still trying to heal?
Right. And I think a lot of that, I'm just thinking back to moms, let's say, but even if you don't have children, a big part of that challenge is, so I realize I need rest. I need to remove, and you go to the doctor and they're like, well, you just need to cut out some stress from your life. You're like, okay, which kid am I supposed to get rid of? Like, should I quit the job that puts the food on the table?
Right.
I can't just disappear from my court case. So which stress would you like for me to just brush off my plate? Because all of the stresses that are on my plate are things that I cannot, they're not chosen to be.
As if they were optional, right?
As if they were optional. Yes. Thank you. That's more of what I was trying to say. They are not optional. They are not things that I just picked and like tried to keep there. So yes. And working with the grief that comes with that, working with the anxiety that comes with that, processing the anger of the things that people may have done to you, or the stuff that you were taught that has now resulted in you having to deal with this. And you're like, if those people and those systems hadn't had those actions or taught me these beliefs or put me in this situation when I was innocent and vulnerable and naive and trusting, imagine what all of us could do if we didn't have any chronic illness issues slowing us down. And there's anger and there's grief that comes with that we have to process.
Yeah, there is.
So yeah, it's a lot. I love that you guys are here and that you're bringing expertise in areas that are not my niche, but I know are so useful. I've also worked with a lot of people in these areas, but I'm really happy to hand off these to you guys so that I can focus more on like navigating the court system and the things, the strategic clarity types of things that I actually really, really enjoy. And so we have more options. I see some questions.
Yeah.
And I was thinking we should scroll up and look at those. I see Karen saying, I have a question. I feel like there is an attitude that coaches either have it all together or think that they do. How do you balance your desire to help others while you are growing and healing yourself? I have thoughts because I don't think I've ever claimed to have it all together. I mean, I've done stuff with bald hair and like from a hospital bed and all kinds of things. But I get the concept and I'm interested in what you guys have to say. What are your thoughts?
We definitely don't have it all together. And I think that's a really insightful question because we do have to kind of balance the fact that we've gone through our own experiences, we've gone through all of our training, and we have come a long way. Right. But I also feel like if we're coming at this like we have it all together, we're not going to be effective because we're going to be setting up a different sort of power differential. Like, I've got it, you've got to come up to where I am. And that's not at all our hearts or what we know to be effective. So it is a balance that we have to strike. And I think one of the great things about Wild and being able to do this internship coaching with Sarah is that it's a requirement for us to be checking in with Coach Bren and talking about what is our self-care during the coaching. As we're getting into this, it's foundational for us to have those check-ins and make sure that we're also being like authentic with ourselves and taking care of ourselves and our process while we're doing that for other people.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say something about Coach Bren before we move further. Coach Bren is not here with us this morning. Coach Bren absolutely hates with a visceral passion video, live, anything. And because I love her and respect that boundary of hers, I don't drag her to do these kinds of things. But a lot of you that are watching may not know that Wild is not just me. I have a co-founder partner, and Coach Bren is our resident expert in working with rewiring the brain and regulating the nervous system and that side of whole body regulation with trauma recovery. And she's actually got a whole course. It's like a 6-month program that's getting ready to launch very, very soon. I will actually drop the link to that in just a moment when Emily's talking and I can multitask. I'll drop the link to that in the comments if you want to get on the waiting list for that. But yes, so one of the things that we do, like you said, when you talked about checking in with Coach Bren, I was just thinking, not everybody knows who Coach Bren is. And so she works not only with creating material for our audience, but also she checks in as a mentor with our coaching trainees and interns like you guys to make sure you're doing well in our Wild Institute coaches program. So Emily, go for it.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. I love what you said, Deb. We are all in therapy still because we have to take care of ourselves. We absolutely don't have it all together. But 2 things that I learned through Wild Institute that were really helpful is, one thing, there's a difference between a coach and a mentor and your best friend. And our job is not to tell you what to do based off our experience. Our job is to empower our clients to make decisions that stand with their own values, meet their needs, And I'm not going to solely coach based off of, well, this is what I lived through. This was my experience. So you should do this now. And so I don't even have to have the exact same experience as someone to be able to provide them the tools they need to make the best decisions for themselves. Mm. So that is a really key principle in my own coach work. Also, another thing that was recommended highly or in Wild Institute was that we need to know as coaches what our limitations are. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't have enough expertise in a certain area, we defer or we refer out repeatedly. Mm-hmm. So I'll be like, that's a great question for your attorney. Or that's a really good question for your medical doctor. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to step into a role that I'm not qualified for and give my own just personal experience or my best guess answer on something that I have no training in. So one thing that I do as a coach is to be able to untangle this mess and say, this is where you go for that counsel. Right. This is where you go for that counsel.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. To add to that, my thoughts are that a wise coach, like you said, Emily, is there to ask questions and to guide the person they're coaching toward greater self-recognition and self-realization based on their own framework. Mm-hmm. Not here to just give you all the answers. Right. And once you've learned the skills of coaching like that, you coach the person, not the problem. Mm. And that is something you can do from a hospital bed. Ask me how I know. Mm-hmm. That is something you can do without having it all together yourself. Now, there are advocates and coaches out there who do tend to present themselves as though they got it all together. At Wild Institute, we don't do that. And I loved that you said, hey, we are all still in therapy. I think, Karen, since we are addressing your question, that being aware, that awareness of your own limitations is incredibly important. Mm-hmm. And also the recognition that we support others in the areas, well, and this may sound like it is contrary to coach the person, not the problem, but let me try to put these two together. So when we have a desire to help others, if we're acting ethically and according to best practices, we do not try to dive into helping others in areas where we haven't experienced anything and we don't have any expertise. Mm-hmm. For example, let's just say you're not a coach necessarily, but you're a friend who wants to help your friends. And you've just discovered resources that are opening your eyes. You share those resources. You tell your friends what you've discovered. But if you've never been in a courtroom and you've never fought a court battle, you don't go saying, this is what worked for me, because you don't have any experience in those areas. So balancing that humility of, I can help you find the answer. Mm-hmm. is very important. Mm-hmm. And I know in our training with Wild Institute and just my own personal perspective is I've been through a lot of stuff, but that doesn't make me an expert on your situation. Mm-hmm. You are the expert on your situation. And I'm here because I've walked a very similar trail out of the wilderness. So I'm here to walk beside you and point out things that I have found. Like, hey, do you see that patch of leaves? That's covering a pit with spikes in it. We're going to not walk on that, right? Let's avoid this. Do you see that? That's a sign of this other thing that's going to be very dangerous. And we're here to walk along with our clients, not to give answers, not to tell you exactly what to do, and certainly not to take over your own decision-making process. Because we strongly believe in autonomy, and that you are the expert in your own life. And I think it is only ethical as coaches to be constantly seeking to grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said,
we all have reading stacks 50 books long at least.
Yes. 50. You're slacking.
I lost count.
we are all in a frame of mind and a life view of constantly learning, constantly growing. And I've been doing this for a decade, close to a decade now, and there are people I call who've been doing it for 2 decades. Now, people who've just started, I'm in a great place to help people who've just started. But when I need help, I go to people who've been doing it longer than me. And I think that should be a way of life for all of us, that we are constantly learning from those who have done more than us and passing it back down like a bucket line to those who may not be at the same place. Okay, next question. My husband keeps lying about porn. I'm actually going to put it up here. I've been really distant with him. He says if I would have tried harder as a team, then we could save our relationship. I feel shut down and I'm not sure what to do. I have thoughts. Deb, would you like to jump in with any thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. What stands out to me here is if I would have tried harder, then we could save our relationship. The I and we are not the same. Yes, I feel like that is a common approach for someone who's trying to make the victim out to be the problem, to try and make it sound like a we issue when it's not. It's not all on one person to make a relationship work. But that being said, if one party is being secretive and betraying the other, then it is on that person to make a change in order.
The betraying person.
The betraying
not the betrayed person. Yes.
Correct. Because the betrayed person is going to continue to try and do everything for both sides of the relationship. And the betrayer is going to count on that. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at your name. DS? I'm really sorry that that's your experience right now and that you are aware that this is happening and that he's lying and that he's trying to put all the ownership on you. I feel like step one is doing what you're doing, acknowledging how you feel about that, and getting clear on what his ownership of this situation is and what yours is and is not. So your ownership is you, and it is not saving the relationship by yourself. It's putting the ownership where it needs to be on him to be more honest and forthcoming and find the right structured support to make a change if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Emily, do you have any thoughts, or did Deb cover it?
No, I do. Unfortunately, a lot of victims are told, well, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And I love, Sarah, what you say. a tango is a sexy dance. It's a partnership. It's when you're working together and there's equality and connection and mutual respect and honor. It only takes one to destroy a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are dealing with a situation of betrayal trauma, it is so vital for the individual who has been betrayed to understand what is their responsibility and what is their betraying partner's responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it can be a very helpless situation because the person that you trusted obliterated that trust, that that safety, that basic boundary of honesty and communication, and saying, hey, I'm all in this relationship because I have nothing to hide. And it can feel very helpless when you're in that situation as a betrayed partner, because you realize you cannot change or control your unfaithful partner's actions.
Right.
It's such a hard truth to swallow, but it can also be really empowering, because now you have choices, because you know that you have control over your actions. So that's one thing that I repeatedly go back to with my clients of, let's figure out what is your responsibility and what you can control. You can control your actions and how you, the choices that you make moving forward after betrayal, because we can't focus on your partner other than being able to spot, this is healthy, this is not healthy. That's really important. But as far as we can't fix it. We can't fix the other person. That's their job. That's their healing to do. It's a really empowering thing to be able to say, oh, these are the choices I have.
I love that.
So I'm typing in a resource link that I'm going to drop up here in just a moment. So I want to say something to DS as well. And that is, I think that your husband is a little confused about what kind of problem his deception about his porn use actually is. Because when we have communication problems or marriage problems, we think, okay, this is a marriage issue. We need to work together, right? But deception is not a marriage issue. It's an integrity issue. It is a one partner issue with their own integrity deficit. It's not a marriage issue. It's not like, well, if we had just communicated better, we wouldn't have had that argument. Or if we had organized our schedules better, one of us would have ended up going to the grocery store to get what we needed for dinner tonight, but we both thought the other one was doing it. So it's like an organization, communication, partnership challenge where we can both contribute to resolving it. Those are great reasons to go to a marriage counselor or to get input and invites and advice from someone who works with couples therapy to help you iron out things in an already healthy, faithful relationship. But lack of faithfulness in a relationship is a violation of the vows. And your partner knew what the vows were when they stood up in front of witnesses and they vowed them. They weren't confused on the forsaking all others bit and being faithful to you when they vowed that. There shouldn't be any confusion now either. So pornography, affairs, sexting, even if it's not labeled pornography, but it's sexually arousing or explicit types of things that are on social media or TikTok feeds or whatever it is that is their proclivity. When someone is seeking a sense of satisfaction by consuming and devouring that kind of content, that is a violation of those marital vows. And that is an integrity deficit. It is not a marital issue. So there's literally, as the partner, Diaz, there is literally nothing you could do to make an unfaithful partner be more faithful, because that is a decision they made inside their mind. And I just want to validate one other thing. Feeling shut down is normal. You are not weird. You are not crazy. It is normal. It is a very common response, and it means you are experiencing trauma. It's called betrayal trauma. And it is okay. In fact, it is essential for you to feel that you have permission to get support. Now, obviously, any of the three of us would be happy to work with you or others who are watching on finding clarity about being sure that you feel that you know what to do. However, you also have lots of other options. You can get therapy in your local area. There are Zoom therapists. If you want a licensed counselor that I can refer you to, we all have rosters and Rolodexes of different people in different areas, and we would be happy to either work with you or connect you with someone who can help you meet those needs and explore what is causing this sense of shutdown and what you actually can do, because you said you're not sure what to do. But I just want to kind of put that to rest. If one partner is lying and deceiving about unfaithfulness to the other partner, it is not a marriage issue. It's not a team issue. It's not a let us try harder together on this issue. It's an integrity deficit. And the person who's violating the vows needs to do the work. So there's that. Now, if you're wondering whether or not it's actually abuse, if you're experiencing stuff, even if it's not sexual betrayal, but if you're challenged by all these different types of things, I am going to drop a link in here, and I'm going to show this link. So there is a free video course, short, punchy videos, great little quizzes. And it's ideservetoknow.com. Is this abuse? It's completely free. It's available both on our TraumaMAMAs mobile app and on the web. So if you are just saying, hey, I don't have a budget for stuff right now, I just need some answers, I need to get more clarity, this is a free course available for you.
Can I throw in another thought on a resource? A book I'm actually reading right now is Your Sexually Addicted Spouse by Barbara Steffens and Marsha Means. I'm looking at it on my phone because I've been listening to the audio version. I'm about halfway through, and I can see how this book is so validating for victims of betrayal trauma, because many times false blame can be put on the victim, and they're told that they're just addicted to their sexually unfaithful spouse, or they are codependent. And this book really focuses on what the authors call the trauma model, and it's understanding there's a difference between a normal, natural, expected trauma response and codependency. And so if there's anyone watching that has gone through this and they are wondering, am I the bad one here? Did I cause this? I just love that book because it can really bring clarity as to how you're responding could be a very normal, natural trauma response. And it's important to understand that to be kind to your body when it's going through that trauma response, and not put false blame and shame on yourself when you're spiraling out, you're exhausted, your body is struggling to function after this betrayal has come out, to be kind to your body and realize this is normal, and you can get help with the right professional instead of taking on and saying, well, then the problem is me. I just must be codependent. This book really clears that up.
That's good.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I remember when I first read that book, it put me in bed.
It's powerful. It's very powerful.
And by me, that I mean, it was a decade ago, but at the time, reading it was like locking onto a fire hose and downloading the language for, at that point, 12 to 14 years of betrayal trauma that I had never had language for. And my body, we were talking about how we have somatic physical responses to things. My body literally seized up. My lower back, my hips. I couldn't walk straight without pain. I couldn't sit without pain. I couldn't lie down. I remember lying down on my wood floor trying to like find pressure points to get relief, because it was like all the muscles and the nerves and everything had just, and they were saying like this. I would read for a couple hours and I'd go run a hot Epsom salts bath, and then I would come out. Then I would read for a couple of hours and I'd go take a hot shower and I would come out. And I went to the physical therapist, I went to massage therapists, and it just had to pass. But the book, I could relate to something in every single case study in the entire book, some aspect, if not the whole story. And it is a powerful book based on over 10,000 hours of research. And it really, I highly recommend it. I'll go try to find a link to it and drop it in here in case anybody wants to. Anybody else have questions? Anything? Anyone? While we're waiting, just in case anyone else does have questions, otherwise we'll start to wrap it up here in a second. I want to share this book that I have been reading, and I love it. I actually got to share a little bit of my story in this book too, and talk to, well, not a whole lot of my story, but just to talk to Dr. Camden Morgante about the awareness of survivors of purity culture who are also experiencing domestic violence or betrayal trauma, and like the crossover between that. So I'm trying, as long as it has my eyes in it, it will show and not blur out. So Recovering from Purity Culture by Dr. Camden Morgante. I'll drop a link into this too. Dismantle the myths, reject shame-based sexuality, and move forward in your faith. So Dr. Camden exposes 5 myths about purity culture. Oh, I see Lois saying Dr. Camden's book is awesome. I would agree. 5 myths of purity culture and their effects on individuals and relationships. She provides strategies to overcome shame in the mind and the body. She explores the connection between purity culture and trauma. She helps those who are hurting reconstruct their faith with peace and acceptance. And this is one of my favorite bits. As a licensed therapist, she's a licensed clinical psychologist with almost 15 years of experience. And she offers proven therapy techniques that you can do with yourself, things that you can do for regulation and processing, to replace harmful lies with healing truth. And so I will drop a link for this in there. But first, I am going to also drop a quick link to the Safe Church Conference. I want to let you know, and I know we've all been talking about maybe you guys can come too. I really, really hope that you guys can be there. But in Brevard, North Carolina, I am speaking with Dr. Andrew Bauman. We are both keynoting the Safe Church Conference in March of 2025. in North Carolina. And I just dropped the link into the comments for that. This is the information event on Facebook with the registration link. And other people who will be there include, of course, Dr. Bauman's wife, Dr. Christy Bauman, who is the author of Her Rights. And also, who was I thinking? Oh, Dr. Camden. That's why that was my lead into this. Dr. Camden Morgante is doing a breakout session, and Jay Stringer, the author of the book Unwanted, just was able to say that he was able to lock in. So we are going to have an incredible collection of speakers, breakout sessions, and there's going to be really cool people there. Something very cool is that it is also going to have an online streaming ticket. So if you can't make it to North Carolina, you can get the online streaming ticket and you can watch from wherever.
For the keynote speakers, not the breakout.
Yes, it is only the keynotes. Yes, thank you, Emily. It is, that does not include the breakout sessions. That's the keynotes only. But I mean, hey, the keynotes are going to be good too. But yes, I mean, even better is turn it into a weekend getaway and come join us for the weekend in North Carolina. And there's an early bird ticket. And then after December, it will go to the regular price. So this is something you definitely want to share with friends and others. And you can repost about that too. So wait a second though. There was something else we were going to talk about, right?
There was another comment that came in too.
Oh, okay. Yes. Do you want to grab that one? And I'm going to get the link to Dr. Camden's book. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Karen says, where can we find each of your stories if it exists in print or audio somewhere? I guess I'll share first, and then Deb, you can jump in. Okay. My Facebook page is Thriving Forward. My website is thrivingforward.org. And if you go to the media page, there's several links to podcasts that I've been on. A little bit of my story was shown in the hit docuseries Shiny Happy People on Amazon Prime. And so my story and the links to that are all on that page. And then, of course, I'm pretty active on my social media, and I would love to see you there.
Awesome. Yeah, my story is not very public at this point, but I do have my Facebook page primarily as Bold New You, and soon coming website is boldnewyou.org. And I believe it's bold.newyou on Instagram. You can glean glimpses of my story and what I've posted, but I think these ladies would agree there's some finessing that we have to do in how we share. So I'm waiting on the Lord's leading for how that comes out, but I'm personally more than happy to speak with someone personally about where I've been, if that would be a benefit to someone. Yeah. So for me, reaching me right now on Facebook, again at Bold New You, or Deb at boldnewyou.org if you want to email me.
And I'm just dropping those links in there for at least the Facebook pages, because then those individuals who wish to can follow you. And for me, at some point I will probably write a memoir. Right now, I have my stories scattered in some bits and pieces throughout a dozen different blogs. My focus, though, has always been on taking the things that I have experienced and transforming them into fuel to help others, as opposed to trying to take the limelight and make it about me and my story. So I'm not saying that negatively to anyone who shares their story very publicly. I think it's fantastic if that's the best way for you to help people by sharing your story. But for me, it's never seemed like a very direct required need to talk about everything that's happened to me. Instead, I felt that I'm best able to help others by simply translating that into wisdom to share. So I guess those are 3 very long answers to your question, Karen. But nobody ever accused us of being concise.
It's a trauma response.
You know what? It may very well be. We could just blame it on it's a trauma response. Alrighty, I want to throw out a couple of links here. So if you want to learn more about coaching, I'm going to put clarity and strategy coaching in here because I do both, and then Deb and Emily both do their own clarity coaching in their various specialties. And all 3 of us are available here at wilderness2wild.com/wild coaching. So there we go. And I'm going to drop this right up onto... I see Karen said, "You're good. You're always amazingly helpful and relevant." Thank you, Karen. You are very sweet. I appreciate that. And here is where, if watching this, one of our experiences or perspectives or niches have connected with you and you're like, I would love to work together with one of them more, this is where you can do that and you can find out all the information. I'm going to drop one other link in here where if you happen to have an extremely tight budget, which I know is a reality for so much of all 3 of our audiences, are individuals that just don't have any extra money. You may be trying to decide whether to buy potatoes or milk. And you know what? My family has been in that kind of situation before too. I get it. So we also at Wild have a very, very affordable monthly group coaching club called The Scoop. And as a member of The Scoop, you get an extra bonus discount off of any one-to-one session or session bundle with Deb, Emily, or me, or with Coach Bren's nervous system regulation programs as well. So I'm going to drop that in. And right now, until the end of this month, October, just for those who might be watching this later, it's currently only $9 a month as a membership. And you get access to workshops for free, bonus access to the workshops, and you get discounts for the one-to-one coaching, and you get 1 group coaching session a month. So that is in The Scoop, and I'm going to drop that here as well. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them now before we wrap up for the day, and then we'll see you next Saturday. And you can bring friends next Saturday and share it with others.
Think of questions throughout the week and write them down.
Yes, exactly. Hold on here. I'm just drop this in. Do you guys have anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
I just keep thinking about the imagery that you used, Sarah, earlier when we were talking about kind of what is coaching. And that really resonated with me. I've had this vision of wanting to come alongside someone and just link arms with them. I had a coffee with a girlfriend last night, and she said something along the lines of, coaching is it's more training than a friendship, but less formal than therapy. It's like this nice little middle ground where I get to come alongside someone as a compassionate, trained, professional friend and witness a transformational journey with someone. And it's just so beautiful. So I really appreciate that you made that distinction for people to understand what it is we do.
I love that.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Remember recently, Sarah, I was telling you how I was working on defining the difference between working with a therapist and working with a coach. And there's a lot of overlap that happens, but I kind of see it as like these two graphs, these two bars that overlap in the middle. And with a therapist on one end, you have a mental health professional. They are trained in mental health. They can diagnose if you are working with a licensed professional. They can do testing. They can diagnose if you need mental health support. That is where a therapist specializes in. A therapist on the other end of the spectrum also does a lot of coach type working, where they're helping you untangle the issue. They are guiding you through to help you make decisions that are best from you. They're teaching some basic principles as far as how to have healthier relationships. And then on the coach side, at least within Wild Institute, I mean, every coach out there, you can have health and fitness coaches, you can have financial coaches, whatever.
Right.
But with Wild coaches, we are more trained specifically in abuse dynamics, domestic violence or abuse within church.
Trauma.
Yes. And so on our far end of the spectrum, that's our expertise. And there are a lot of therapists that don't have that training. It doesn't mean that they're a bad therapist. They just simply don't have that training, especially when you're talking about like safety planning. I do consults with therapists because they didn't learn in school how to put together a safety plan, and they have a client who needs that. So that's one thing that we specialize in. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we're overlapping with a lot of the work that therapists do. So there's different seasons, I think, whether you should work with a therapist or a coach. A lot of my clients do both. They kind of lean more in on the mental health side with their therapist, but then when they need help for abuse dynamics, that's the thing that I can work with them on. So they're not competing fields. They really can work well together and have each individual expertise areas.
Yes, I want to reiterate that. And I also want to expand just a little bit on the overlap you were talking about between coaches and therapists. I think primarily that overlap is in the region where therapists overlap into coaching, not where coaches overlap into mental health treatment, because we are really super careful to not drift into mental health treatment. That is just not our lane. My favorite way to work with clients is when they have a therapist and we work together as a coach, and my clients say, wow, there is like so much difference in what I get when I'm working with my therapist versus when I'm working with you as my coach. Another way to help define that a bit, I think, is that very often therapists focus with a client on untangling the past and figuring out what has happened to you in the past and how it has impacted you and so on, and how you need to heal from that. Coaches are much less past focused. We are future focused. We are here
we don't do trauma work where we help
we're
you
not digging into your
childhood trauma
and your story and that kind of thing. We are here to help you make a plan moving forward. And very often things will come up where we're like, that sounds like something from the past that you need to go and untangle with your therapist so that you have enough work done on it that we can go forward with that. But maybe we need to send that one back to your counselor for some work. But what I love about coaching, and it fits with my personality very well, is that it isn't about untangling all of the past historical stuff. It is about how to make effective, wise, safe, clear plans from this point forward. What do I do in the present, and how do I move forward with effectiveness and precision and clarity and good strategy in a way that aligns with my belief system and my unique dynamics, whatever my situation is. And it's not going to be exactly the same for any two people. So, yeah, very good. Little dynamics there that are important. All right. It's been an hour already.
Yay.
That just flew right past. I love that so many people have hung out with us today. Thank you all for being here. We will do this again next Saturday. So if you want to just chat with us, hang out, we'll talk about whatever we're reading. We'll talk about whatever we've been exploring, answer questions if you have them. And it's a great way to just get to know each of us better and for us to get to know you better as you interact in the comment section. Any last thoughts before we're done?
I love spending Saturday morning with you guys.
That's what I was thinking. This has been great. Thank you.
It's our own little girls get together. So get your favorite hot drink, whatever it is, and join us next Saturday. I have to say mad props to Deb and Emily because they are not in the Eastern time zone. It was a wee bit earlier for them than it was for me, especially Deb. Yes. So we're scattered across 3 time zones. But if you loved this, share it with a friend, pass it on. If you have someone that you know that just needs to hear what we've talked about today, pass it on or tag them in the comments. It'd be great. And it's been wonderful. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and for being here. Alrighty. We'll see you next weekend.
Hey.
And